Clemson and Pitt play this week. I believe it's at Pitt, correct?
Yes.
All right. Pitt could win that one. I think Clemson does win that one, but I would not be surprised if Pitt makes it close or if Pitt pulls off an upset.
Kenny Pickett.
Clemson could come in 4-3 against a 3-4 Florida State team. So you've got that game. Then you've got Miami 2 weeks after that. Miami still has to play NC State this week at Pitt, and then they play Georgia Tech, a team that's given them fits before. Now, Miami has the talent to win all those games, but Miami could also lose at least 2 of those and come into Tallahassee 3-6. Boston College is starting to hit the downward slide on their schedule. Florida has lost 2 of their last 3 games and plays number 1 Georgia in 2 weeks. So that's more than likely a loss in that one. That's where we're at this point in the schedule where I would argue that the last 5 games of the season, if Clemson loses to Pitt, I would argue the last 5 for the last 5 are all toss-ups. I think NC State is the only one right now that NC State will come in as a guaranteed favorite. But I think if Miami plays down the way they've played the last couple of weeks, if Florida slips up against Georgia, they have to go to South Carolina. You don't know, SEC. It could happen there in that one. Boston College slips. If Florida State stays hot, there's a chance that there's 4 wins right there.
For the first time in forever, the ACC race is fascinating. I know that it gets dogged on nationally because we've got no college football playoff contenders, but for a conference championship, it's fascinating. You've got Wake and NC State both undefeated in conference. North Carolina State lost out of conference, but Wake at 6-0. In conference, they're both undefeated. You've got North Carolina State, obviously, the win against Clemson. So Clemson needs NC State to lose twice to get back in the driver's seat. And then in the Coastal's the typical, everybody thought it was going to be North Carolina and or Miami, and that's just a free-for-all. And Pitt.
I was just saying, we talked about it. NC State could lose twice. NC State's the
sure they could.
They could win out, or they could.
Any of these teams could lose to any of them. They're the whole conference. We've seen Syracuse do what they've done the last 3 weeks. They haven't won the games, but they've gone down to the last play of the game against 3 of the better teams in the conference. It's crazy. And here's a stat for you boys. Clemson is an underdog in an ACC game. They're 3.5-point dog in this one for the first time since 2014 versus you-know-who.
Miami.
Florida State.
7 years. Florida State. 7 years they haven't been an underdog. They play 8 games a year. That's 56 roughly games since they've been an underdog.
Right now, if the ACC championship game was played right now, it would be Wake Forest and Pitt.
I love it.
In a nauseating 8 o'clock nationally televised game on ABC.
Love it. I will watch that game over watching Clemson annihilate Pitt, fill in the blank, Virginia, whomever as they have. At least it's gonna be unpredictable. It's gonna be okay. The winner's probably not going to go to the playoff unless Wake Forest does the unthinkable. But I'll enjoy that. I like this.
So let me ask you a question. We talked about this before. Wake Forest is undefeated, wins the ACC title. Cincinnati is undefeated, wins the AAC title. Both 13-0, win their conference championship.
Not even
games.
Close.
Hold up. Let me finish, please. And it's down to one final spot. Georgia's already in. Oklahoma's already in. Let's say your Buckeyes somehow get in, win the Big Ten. Because I think Ohio State's still in the driver's seat. Penn State's good. Penn State's going to give you a challenge in a couple weeks. But let's say it's Georgia, Oklahoma, and Ohio State have 3, and it's down to that final spot. Cincinnati over Wake. You're putting Wake in over Cincinnati.
So nobody thinks Wake's going to go undefeated, but we're playing hypotheticals here. And for some reason, even though I have been the person who has defended the little guy, the group of 5, to say, hey, you go undefeated, you should be able to make a playoff system. But unfortunately, we only have 4 spots. So for as much as I would love Cincinnati to get that opportunity, for some reason, just beating Notre Dame seems to satisfy most people. Oh, they beat Notre Dame. They're good. The rest of their schedule is atrocious. It's horrible. I did a video about a week ago where I compared Cincinnati's schedule and Wake Forest. They're comparable to date, but Wake Forest, we've already talked about that 4-game stretch at the end of the season. And even though the ACC is down and arguably the worst of the 5 conferences, I think it's 4th. Wake Forest's schedule's so much tougher than Cincinnati's. It's not even close.
Oh no, I agree. And I think, but that's what I'm saying. I feel like the ACC this year is so god awful. We talked about this a couple weeks ago. The only way Wake Forest could even sniff the playoff is they have to go undefeated. They can't lose a single game.
Can you imagine an undefeated Power 5 champion doesn't make the playoff? That's crazy.
In any other year, I would agree with you. This year, and as much as we're defaming our own home conference, that ACC is god awful. It is a god awful Power 5 conference this year.
But my last point is that Cincinnati plays in a much worse conference. It's not even close. The ACC is so much better than the American Conference.
But they did beat the hell out of UCF, and that made me feel good inside. Oh.